What's going on? Sean Santella, how are you?
Thank you. Our guest tonight is Sean Santella, and thank you for the short introduction. And let's kick off with the interview. When did you start training MMA?
Started training MMA in 2007. I wrestled in high school, and one of my high school buddies started doing jiu-jitsu, and after a few years, he talked me into trying it. I broke my arm the very first day of jiu-jitsu, and I fell in love with it ever since.
So, despite you broke your arm, you said that will be my life goal.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. That was the calling. And it was
Excellent.
one of my wrestling buddies that actually did it too.
Outstanding, outstanding. Can you discuss your nickname?
So my nickname is Shorty Rock, and it started out as Shorty ever since I was younger. It's just been kind of like a childhood nickname. And then when I started fighting, one of my coaches threw the rock at the end, so it kind of just stuck with me. But I got the Shorties just because I have an older brother, and I would hang out with all his friends that were older than me, so I was always the little guy. I'm still the little guy. So everybody just called me Shorty because I was a short kid hanging around. And then once I started fighting, somebody just threw a rock at the end and kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, but it's one of the most original nicknames I've ever heard. Can you please describe the meaning of your tattoos?
Oh man, so there's a lot. All right, it's my therapy. So on my sleeve, this is kind of like my life story. Um, I'm gonna have to get it up close, but I
Okay,
have my
okay.
grandparents,
Okay?
my, my grandparents, okay, with the cross. All right, and then it kind of comes up into things that were important in my life. So I have a pair of wrestling shoes from when I wrestled,
Okay?
and I have $100 bill here because I ended up dropping out of high school. I got tangled up in the drugs at a young age, and it kind of ruined my wrestling career. So I wanted to show that the money and hustling kind of messed up uh, my days of wrestling in college. And then I had the World Trade Center,
Yes?
big time that happened. Had a lot of things going on in my life when that happened. So not only with that, but just personal. I have my best friend's urn, Jesse Sachs. He
Okay?
passed away. So he was a childhood friend. He died very young. Um, and then I have coming up through here. This is me on top of the world. Okay, and you got like an evil face up here.
Yes?
So what it means is, even though you're on top of the world, you always have part of you that's trying to branch out. Your evil side. So at the blink of an eye, everything can come crashing down. So I'm always battling the demon within. It's always a struggle every day. So that's what that good meets evil. That's pretty much the theme of all my tattoos, is that my past is one mistake from coming back. And I've done so much to turn my life around. So it's a reminder that everything can be taken away, and if you one bad mistake can make you fall back, 10 steps, 20 steps, and it washes away everything that you worked hard for.
But you
So
battled it out.
what's
But
that?
but you battled everything out. I mean,
Yeah.
you're now a
Yeah.
fighter, and how would you describe your fighting style?
Well, I say I'm a scrappler. So I'm a scrappy grappler. Most people just think I'm a grappler, but I don't look at it as I'm just a straight grappler. To me, I think like Damian Maya is more of a straight grappler. With me being a scrappler, I just feel like I'm really scrappy. So it's a higher pace. I'm mixing in strikes. I'm mixing in submissions. I'm mixing in my striking. So I'm just a very scrappy person, and it's just nonstop. So I'd like to think of I'm a hybrid between like I would say like Jim Miller and Damian Maya. That's somewhere where you find my style.
So the next dilemma would be whether your favorite submission is armbar or rear naked choke, I assume, because as well as I know, Jim Miller is master of armbar, Damien Maya is master of rear and steer, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So which one is
Um,
it?
I would say the rear naked choke.
Yeah, I would
Yeah, rear
say too.
naked
I
choke.
assume because you said Damien Maya first. Whenever I heard of Damien Maya, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Can you discuss your first amateur fight?
Sure. So my first amateur fight I took, I wasn't part of a legit gym. We were kind of a group of friends that were training in a wrestling academy with really no coaching. And it was just a bunch of kids that we knew that kind of just beat each other up. And I took a fight against a kid from Tiger Schulman, and it was at a higher weight class. And I won the first round, and then he beat me up the second and third round. I just completely gassed out. And that day changed my whole career. I hated losing. I hated losing in anything. I'm very competitive, you know, so I'm always going to give it my all. It doesn't matter if I'm with my mom playing miniature golf, if I'm with my girlfriend, you know, playing whatever. Like, I don't like to lose, you know. So I lost, and it changed everything. I went out and I found a better gym, and I went to my first real gym, which was AMA Fight Club, and I was there for a while. That's where I ended up getting my black belt, and the rest of my amateur career and a good portion of my pro career took place. So if it wasn't for that loss, I don't know. I might have had a different path, you know. So I lost my amateur fight and I lost my my pro debut, both to Tiger Schulman guys. So they were actually 1 year apart. We just figured out today, exactly 1 year apart, which is crazy.
So yeah, that was the next question, but you replied. Okay, what are your thoughts on... You fought him 2 times, Jose Villanueva.
Yeah, so I fought him as an amateur, I lost, and then I actually fought him 3 times.
3 times?
I fought him, yeah, 3 times. I fought him to a draw as a pro. The problem was when I first went pro in the organization Ring of Combat, their first handful of fights, their undercard was only 2 4-minute rounds. So there was a lot of draws. You win 1 round, you lose the other, and they counted it as a draw. So me and him had a draw, and then they bumped us up to the main card, so then it was 3 4-minute rounds, and then I armbarred him in the second. So I'm 1-1-1 against him all time.
You armbarred Mikey Lovato too, right? How did you extend his arm?
That was an armbar triangle, yeah, armbar triangle, Mikey Lovato. Very good transition. I had it I think I took the triangle from the back. I had his back triangle and then armbar.
Well, this is kind of more technical question. Many commentators are making big mistake when it comes to armbar and triangle armbar. So can you pinpoint to the greatest differences? Because I mean, I'm also commenting, you know, and I heard many commentators making these mistakes. So can you, as a fighter, pinpoint to the differences between these 2 submissions?
So for the arm triangle, you mean, or for which one?
Triangle armbar and armbar.
So with the armbar, you know, depends on the type of armbar. A lot of times you see like the Jim Miller armbar, which was just a traditional armbar from the guard, where you have just the arm that you're attacking, you know, and could be the other arm between the legs, but the legs are on the same side of the head. Whereas if you're going for, say, a triangle, your triangle is going to have one leg on one side of the shoulder and the other one's going to be underneath the armpit. So then you can still attack an armbar, but you also have the triangle choke. If you had just a basic armbar where the legs are on both sides, it's going to be very difficult to apply some type of triangle. So that would be the difference. I think the commentators had an issue with the head and arm choke from this previous UFC where the guy hit it from bottom, I think on Gene Vellante.
Yes.
And that was just a normal head and arm triangle. You know, it was just done from bottom. You know, it's just a different position that's not very popular that he hit it from. But regardless of the position, it's still a head and arm choke. The head and the arm were in the choke.
So yeah, I saw many making this mistake, so I wanted you to pinpoint the difference. Can you please say your thoughts on Aljamain Sterling? You fought him.
On Aljamain?
Yes, Aljamain.
Yeah. So I think Aljamain's a great fighter. I think he's, you know, top of the line at 35. I think his work ethic, he's improved so much as a fighter. Me and him still talk and stuff like that, still see each other, congratulate each other. We still see each other a lot at the regional shows when we have our teammates fighting and stuff. So I think he's going to be a champion. I think his style, you know, he's still young. He's got a great team behind him at Serra-Longo. He's got great teammates. He's got a lot of guys that are around his weight that are at the top level. So I mean, you know, everything's there for him. I think his fighting style is unique, and um, it's hard to really train for somebody like that. You know, I think he's going to do very well. You know, he fought one of my old teammates, Marlon. That was actually a close fight until he got caught with that head kick. So, you know, if that fight ever happens again, you know, that's gonna see how that fight turns out. Could it go a different way? Can Marlon still finish him? You know, because Marlon always has that knockout power. But now you have Frankie coming down to 135, so that's a whole nother element. You know, I don't think Aljamain's really fought like a solid striker into takedowns like Frankie. You know, I think he's one of the best guys that blends that together. Now he's coming down to 35. You know, so there's a lot of tough guys at 35. I think he's beaten most of them, but there's still a couple guys ahead of him. So he still has some work, but I wouldn't be surprised if by, you know, the end of next year he's champion.
What can you say about your fight against WAMP?
That was a good fight, you know. Typical striker versus grappler. I was able to get him down pretty quick, and he made a mistake and gave his back up, and I was able to, finish relatively quickly. So I was really settling in at 25 around that time, you know. I got the weight cut down, and not that I had a bad weight cut in the beginning, but I had some personal issues in the very beginning, my first fight down to 125. So after I got that out of the way and I started coasting and I started training a little better, everything seemed to fall in place.
How did you secure a triangle choke against Dave Morgan?
So it was actually his mistake. He picked me up and tried to powerbomb me like Rampage Jackson back in the day. And the thing was that when he tried to do it, he fell to his knees. And, you know, me hitting triangles a lot and people picking me up, and I was kind of prepared for that. And he wasn't able to spike me on the back of my head. When he hit me, I curled, so it just hit my back. So it really didn't bother me, and it actually put the triangle in deeper, and he ended up, you know, going to sleep and going unconscious. So that was his mistake.
Well, about the Powerbomb, there is one question. Did you watch the fight between Pat Barry and Stefan Struve? Do you remember how Stefan Struve stopped him? You remember?
Yeah.
So Pat powerbombed him, but it was kinda, I haven't seen, but I think it was like here or something. Right. And Stefan didn't let go. So what is, according to you, a good recipe to defend powerbomb if you don't want to let go? I mean, you can let go, and that's fine. Yeah. But if you don't want to let go, is there some recipe or...
Yeah, you have to hug the leg. That prevents the elevation. So as you have the triangle, right, you got to hug that leg. You know, so if you do the triangle correctly, it's going to be the same side leg that you have around their neck. That's the same side arm that you're going to be hugging their leg when they go to elevate. I actually tried to do that against Dave, but he's got such short legs. I couldn't reach it when he picked me up. So I went to grab it, and I couldn't get on the inside. I ended up going on the outside. And then he ended up slamming me, and then I was able to get the angle and hook the leg the second time. So you'd like to do that initially, is as they're picking you up, like before they do that, as they start to raise their head and elevate, you hug their leg. That'll prevent that slam.
Wow.
I actually, when I fought Aljamain, he picked me up too, but he didn't slam me. He put me up against the cage, and then my legs got tired.
So it was a smart decision, right?
It was smart. I wish he slammed me because I probably would have finished that choke, but I had a minute for, I think, over a minute, where we were literally sitting on top of the cage. My back was up and I was like hitting him and elbowing him, but he didn't slam me, and then my legs got tired.
Yeah, in our state, for example, coaches don't know that whenever someone is going to powerbomb you, they say let it go, let it go. And I know there are some guys who never let it go in MMA. For example, you don't let it go. Stefan Struve never lets it go. I mean, whenever I watch him, he receives a powerbomb, but he never lets it go. So thank you for this explanation.
Hug that leg. Hug the leg.
Yeah. What happened in your fight against Matt Lozano?
Matt Lozano. So that was a fight that was in the making for a while. He was doing very well, and he was pretty much the only guy that I haven't fought at 25 that was left. And after I kind of explored other options, we came back, and CFFC was able to put that fight together. So I was excited for that fight. You know, he fought in LFA. He had some good wins and stuff like that. And so he came in with like a little bit of steam behind him. And, to me it was a great fight because I was beating him everywhere. I outstruck him, I took him down, bloodied him up, and then I ended up finishing him. I think it was in the third or fourth round. But I dominated that fight. I don't think he landed one strike the whole fight, to be honest with you. And there was a lot of people that were going back and forth about him, being like one of the top guys. And I didn't see it. I respected him, but I didn't believe the hype. I thought I fought better guys than him, and I finished better guys than him. So I knew his jiu-jitsu and his grappling wasn't anything near mine. And that I knew that he was going to be worried about my grappling, and that opened up my stand-up to where I was able to land some big strikes on him.
You spent the majority of your career, correct me if I'm wrong, at CFFC. So what do you think of that promotion? Can you say something about the promotion?
I got a lot to say about CFFC, but I'll keep it neutral. I think I have the most fights in CFFC history. I have the most wins, the most title defenses. I think I hold a majority of their records. I wish that they promoted that a little more. I feel like I get left behind. So I felt that they could have done a lot better marketability-wise for me throughout my years with them. And I've had, this love-hate relationship with them over, the 7 or 8 years that I fought for them. It's definitely one of the best regional shows out there. It's definitely one of the best on the East Coast. If you want to feel like you're in the big show, such as like Bellator or the UFC, you're going to get that feel with them, with how their production is, how it's run. It's definitely run very well. They will bring in fights for you outside if you hold your weight in, say, ticket sales. It's a business, and if you have something to offer them, then they'll bend over backwards for you, If you don't have much to offer for them, then they're really not gonna do what they could for you. So it's all about what you have available. That's what I try to tell these younger fighters coming up, that you got to make yourself marketable. If you don't have something to offer, then you're going to get passed over. It doesn't matter how good of a fighter you are, especially at the regional scene. You have to have more. You got to have a good following. You got to have a good personality. You have to have an exciting fighting style. If you don't have all that, then they're going to find somebody else, whether they're not as good as a fighter, but they bring in more ticket sales. It is a business, and these companies that are just starting out, or these regional companies, they have to make money, so as well as they want to have a superstar, they also have to stay in business. So if they don't get people that sell tickets and that get eyes on the show, then they're not going to last very long,
How many titles did you win in this promotion?
At CFFC?
Yes?
I won their belt. I think I have 9 total title defenses and titles. So I won it. I defended it, I think, 5 times in a row. And then I was their interim champ. I defended their belt in VF3 fights or V3F fights or whatever. And then I came back and won the title again, and then I defended it again. So I think I want to say I have 9 total. I think I have 5 belts at home, but they didn't give me a belt every time that I defended it. Bullshit.
How did you outwork Naoki Inoue? He is one of my favorite fighters, not gonna lie to you.
Who's that?
Naoki Inoue.
Oh, that was a fun fight. It was good. That was let's see, that was back last February, I think it was, when I fought him. And I actually thought that fight should have been for the title because no one had the title. CFFC stripped me of my title when I left to go fight for Brave. And then when I came back, they didn't have me fight for the title. So I never actually lost the title. So I came back and fought him. He was the biggest name. He fought in the UFC. And so it was a good fight. I was super excited because I always thought that I still think I belong in the UFC. Not only do I belong in the UFC, I feel like I, can be a champion tomorrow, I think I'd be one fight away from fighting for the title. So that fight kind of proved that I belong there, He went in the UFC. The only reason he got cut was because they were going to scrap the division. Other than that, he would still be there, but how they had it formatted where every loser from a fight they were getting rid of. and then they decided to keep the fight after the Cejudo and Moraes fight. But I enjoyed that fight. You know, I knew he was going to be scrappy. I knew he had good grappling, good striking. So it was a high-paced fight. I was able to get to his back early, and pretty much every round I was able to get his back and be able to scramble and stay in dominant position. So I was excited for that fight. But I think that really showed how good my grappling is against some of the guys that are like the best in the world. He's a young kid, you know, like 19 years old, I think. You know, he's 11-1. He fought in the UFC. So, like, that's a big name on my resume that I think people overlook. And now he's fighting over in Risen? And he's 2-0 in Risen at 35 at a higher weight class, you know? So the guys that I'm fighting and beating, they're actually going to bigger, better promotions and fighting and winning.
Yeah, I understand. Can you discuss your last MMA fight? Your last fight, can you please?
Yeah, with Blaine Shutt.
Yes?
So that was very similar to the Lozano fight. He was one of the kids that was left on the region that I haven't fought yet. And, you know, he was one of the kids that always talked a lot of smack. He was a good wrestler. Fought, you know, 35, 25, but I just never really felt like he fought anybody as good as me. So I knew coming in that I would just have that mental edge on him. And, you know, I came in and I just, you know, I just put it on him, you know. I out-wrestled him, took his back, beat him up, and he still complains to this day. He wants a rematch and all this other stuff. He thinks the fight was close, and I'm pretty sure I had 2 10-8 rounds. So I don't know how you can say it was close. But, again, you know, he's another tough kid. He went to another promotion, CES, and just won their title. So, you know, I definitely think that he's a lot better than his record shows. But again, he was just somebody that was like, I was bound to fight if I stayed along the region long enough, you know? I feel like I should have been picked up a long time ago by a bigger promotion. So I shouldn't have had to fight everybody in the tri-state area, everybody on the East Coast. But, you know, because I was passed over and because things happened, you know, I tried to stay active and I would just fight anybody they put in front of me. I never turned down fights. So I ended up fighting everybody. That's pretty much it.
What are the greatest challenges of coaching in MMA?
Greatest challenges in coaching. I think I'm more nervous when I have my teammates fight than when I fight, you know? So for me, I think it's more of the nerves, you know, and because I can't go out there and do it, you know, it's a little more nerve-wracking, you know? When I'm out there, okay, I'm in control. I can do it. But when I'm coaching, you know, I can do as much as I can from outside. But if the fighter isn't going to be willing to like listen and have their confidence in me, then it gets frustrating. I've had a lot of amateur fighters that started out that I was coaching, and they wouldn't listen at all. Like for 3 or 4 amateur fights, they literally wouldn't listen to a word I'm saying. They would sit there, get into a position, they would stare at me, they would look at me, I would tell them to do something, and they would shake their head. So it got to be frustrating to the point that I just stopped coaching at that point. If they weren't going to listen, you know, you had the commission say, hey, why aren't you listening to your coach? Then, you know, that's the most frustrating part. Luckily, you know, I don't have any of them right now. I've kind of moved on from that gym that I had some of those guys. Now, the people that I train are, you know, they're like sponges. It's almost like I have a video game, and I'm pushing the buttons, and that's what I'm watching. You know, so that's what you can ask for as a coach. That's what you want in a fighter, and it makes my life easier. So as long as I put in my time and my work, and me and my teammate or student are on the same page, life's easy. You know, then it's easy. It's when you put everything into something, and then the people don't listen. Whether they don't have the confidence in you, or you know they just don't want to listen for whatever the reason. It gets very frustrating. You know, because you can only do so much from being on the outside.
Yeah, I agree. I hope Lindsay is gonna win this one on weekend. I mean, I had 2 interviews with Lindsay and...
There she is.
I know she is there. Hey, where is crew?
She's gonna do awesome.
Where is crew, Lindsay?
You got a sneak peek at her walkout too. That's her fight outfit.
Yeah, just trying on.
Oh, where is crew?
Thank you.
Yeah, we're still quarantined in the room. We have to wait. You can't go out yet, so
Yeah.
We just got done with a workout. We did some mitts and did some grappling. So gonna chill out, get another session in later. Weight's good, looking strong, looking fast. So I can't wait. It's gonna be a fun fight Thursday.
So quarantine is still active there, right?
Yeah, so Invicta has you, we came in, you had to get tested, and you gotta wait like 12 to 24 hours in your room before you get the test results, and then you can leave your room. So it was a little frustrating at first because you can't go anywhere, so food-wise, you gotta get it all pretty much delivered, or you have to have somebody go grocery shopping for you. We're not allowed to go to the mat area, so they brought the mat up to the room. So, you know, we're making do with what we got. We got a good session in, you know, so... You know, it's tough times right now, but the main thing is everybody's safety, you know? So you got to follow the protocols. They're a little strict, which is, you know, it's all right. The UFC was a little more lenient, but, you know, you got to do what you got to do. From state to state, it's going to change. I think because of the cases, they had an increase in Missouri, so now they're a little worried, so now they're making sure that it's like to a T. You know, where Florida, when they put on the show, it just opened back up. So they were a little more lenient, but now, as you see, Florida went through the roof, you know, so...
Well, yeah, it's same in my country, but now in my country, you know, some cities are having stricter measures, some cities are more lenient, so it kind of depends where you live. Luckily, my city is now fine. Let's say fine.
Yeah.
Would you like to add
it's
something?
same thing with the U.S.
Same thing with US, from state to state, right?
State to state, yep.
Yeah. Would you like to add something, maybe greet someone? Is there something we missed in this interview?
No, I think we hit a lot. Actually, I enjoyed this interview because a lot of the older interviews I've done, nobody really asks about fights, you know?
That's me.
They don't really they don't ask about fights at all, you know? They more or less are just the same questions over and over, which... You know, I can understand everybody wants to know how you got into it, because then that kind of tells you the backstory. You know, so that lays the foundation, but then everybody ends up going and talking about, like, the UFC or stuff like that, not about specific people I fought or how I felt. So it was definitely, I definitely enjoyed this interview more than most, so I appreciate it, and thank you for your time and reaching out.
Yeah, thank you too. Well, many fighters told me that, but you know, I'm kind of different because I'm interested in fighter, not in... I mean, if fighter wants to promote you, he will push you. If he doesn't want, you can't make him. But I want fighter, you know, fighter to the fore, then me. That's why I don't put half-half. That's why I put fighter, and I'm here, but you know, 80% is fighter. That is my philosophy.
Yeah.
So, thank you too, and I will create the video. I'm getting back home tomorrow. I will post it tomorrow, well, let's say around 2-3 p.m. tomorrow. It will be ready. Now make the video creating, and I will let you know tomorrow. I will catch up with you tomorrow after work.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Alright, have a great day, and please send Lindsay my regards.
I definitely will. Take care.
Okay.